A guy waved a phone in my face and said he needed help. So I stopped without thinking and instantly hated myself for it. I was already halfway past him on the park path, head down, trying to get home without making eye contact with anybody, and he just slid into my lane like we were friends. He held the screen up close, bright enough to punch my eyes, and he kept tilting it, so I had to lean in. That was the hook. Make me lean. Make me close the distance for him. It was a screenshot of a missing dog poster. Big sad eyes, floppy ears, a cheesy reward line, and a phone number at the bottom. His thumb hovered near the number like he didn't want me to copy it. Just look at the dog and feel guilty. He talked fast, not nervous fast, salesman fast. He kept repeating little details, brown patch, blue collar, my sister's kid is losing it, like stacking bricks so I'd step where he wanted. I said I hadn't seen the dog and started to move on. He moved too, like my no didn't count. He didn't walk beside me. He walked ahead of me, half a step, always half a step, like I was already following him and he was just confirming it. Every time I slowed, he drifted wider, so I had to either pass him or keep behind him, and passing meant brushing shoulders, so I stayed behind like an idiot. He kept pulling me off the main path toward the service road where the lights don't reach. He said the dog ran down there. He said he heard whining. He pointed with the phone like it was a flashlight, even though the screen barely lit the gravel. He kept glancing back at me, not checking on me, checking my face, checking if I was still polite, checking if I was still trying to be normal. I didn't hear shit. I heard my own steps. I heard his breathing get heavier, like he'd already decided this was working and his body was getting ahead of itself. I tried to slow again, and he did this little laugh, like I was the one being weird, and he angled his body so the easier route kept being the route behind him. I felt my stomach drop, and I still kept walking. That part makes me sick now. I can feel my own feet betraying me. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. Keep walking. For a second, my brain tried to pretend it was random. Wrong number. Spam. Anything. Then I looked up and caught him staring straight at me. Not at the path. At my eyes. He was waiting for my reaction like he'd pressed a button. He wanted to see if I'd freeze, if I'd keep going, if I'd swallow it like a good little mark. I stopped hard enough that gravel crunched. He stopped too clean, like he'd rehearsed stopping right on cue. Then he smiled. Not friendly. Like he'd found a crack in glass, and he could pry it open. He grabbed my elbow. Not hard yet, just enough to claim me. His fingers wrapped around my sleeve, and his nails bit through the fabric. He didn't yank me right away. He held me like a handle, like I was luggage. I jerked away. He grabbed again, tighter. I felt my skin pinch under his nails, and my whole body lit up with that stupid, hot panic. I said, "Don't," and it came out small, so I said it again louder, and he didn't even flinch. He kept his voice calm, like he was correcting a dog. He took another step toward the darker side of the road, like the darkness was his property. That's when I finally did something useful. I drove my knee into his shin as hard as I could. I didn't aim pretty. I just hit. He made this sharp hiss, and his grip loosened a fraction. I tried to turn and sprint back toward the lit path. He snapped. I watched it happen. 1 second, he was playing concerned stranger. The next, his face went blank and ugly, and he yanked me toward the brush with both hands. No more careful. No more pretending. Just force. I screamed and kicked like an animal. I wasn't thinking sentences. I was thinking noise. I clawed at his hoodie and grabbed a fistful of fabric and ripped it. The tear sounded loud in the dark, like paper ripping in a quiet room. He swore. I kept screaming. He tried to pull me sideways, off the gravel into the weeds where the ground drops and the trees blocked the path. He kept his body between me and the lights like he knew exactly what he was doing. He shoved a hand toward my mouth. I turned my head and bit down on whatever I caught. I don't know if it was skin or sleeve, but he jerked back like it hurt. I swung my elbow and caught him somewhere soft. Not a clean hit, but enough. He cursed again, breath coming fast now, and he dug his nails in harder like he was pissed I wasn't cooperating. My phone slipped out of my hand and skidded into the dirt. I saw it flash once, screen face down, then disappear under gravel. that made me angrier than it should have. Like he'd taken my last lifeline with one stupid shove. He tried to drag me deeper, and I went dead weight for a second just to make it harder, and then I kicked again, heel to whatever I could reach. He grunted. I heard something behind us, tires on gravel, a faint whir, and I screamed louder on purpose. A guy on a bike rounded the corner, and my predator froze like a switch flipped. The bike's headlights swept over us and lit his face. Ordinary, young, nothing monstrous, just a guy who decided I was easy. He loosened his grip in the same breath. He tried to look normal. He let go of my elbow like it had been an accident. He lifted his hands, palms out like I was the problem, like I'd attacked him for no reason. He even did this offended little shake of his head like I was crazy. I didn't wait. I bolted toward the bike light and almost ate shit because my legs were shaking so bad. I grabbed the biker's handlebar with both hands just to stay upright. My throat burned. I tasted dirt. My hip screamed where I'd hit the ground. I kept pointing back, words tumbling out, and the biker's eyes flicked from my face to the torn hoodie to the guy backing away. The predator kept backing up, hands still up, acting like I'd accused him of stealing gum. He tried to smile again, but it didn't fit anymore. He said something like, "Whoa, relax," like I was hysterical and he was the adult in the room. The biker snapped something at him, short, sharp, and rolled the bike a little forward so the light stayed on him. That light did more than any weapon. The predator hated it. He kept drifting sideways, trying to slide out of it, and every time he did, the biker adjusted so he was back in the beam. The guy's eyes darted around like he was counting exits. He didn't come closer. He didn't try to explain to me. He just tried to get away without looking guilty. I spotted my phone on the ground when the light hit the gravel. I lunged for it and snatched it up. The screen had a crack running corner to corner. My hands were filthy and shaking so hard I could barely unlock it. The unknown text still sat there like a taunt. "Keep walking." The predator finally turned and walked off toward the maintenance sheds, fast but not running, like he didn't want to look scared. He disappeared into the dark where the service road bends, like that bend was a doorway he'd used before. The biker stayed with me until we got back near the main path where the city lights hit again. I kept looking over my shoulder like my neck was on a swivel. Every branch snap sounded like footsteps. I could feel phantom fingers on my arm. When I got home, I slammed my door, locked it, then checked the lock again like that meant anything. In my bathroom mirror, I saw the crescent marks on my skin where his nails had pressed through my sleeve. Tiny half moons. Proof. I washed my hands and the water ran gray. I tried to slow my breathing and couldn't. I dialed 911 and stared at the green button, then hung up because I couldn't even explain it without sounding like I'd wandered into my own kidnapping. Then because I'm stupid and because my brain needed something to punch, I went hunting for the missing dog poster. I searched local lost pet pages. I checked community boards. I tried different dates. I tried reverse image search. I tried everything that should have pulled it up if it was real. It didn't exist. Not the photo, not the poster template, not the reward, nothing. Like he grabbed any random dog picture and slapped text on it just for that night. I called the number that texted me. No answer. No voicemail. I texted back once, just "Who is this?" And it never went anywhere. It sat there undelivered like the number was dead, or like it was never meant to receive anything back. Like it was a one-way leash. I kept replaying the way he watched my face when my phone buzzed. That wasn't luck. That was timing. That was someone coordinating, or him doing it himself, or both. The thought that there might have been another person nearby, another set of eyes in the dark, another phone, made my stomach roll. Hours later, past midnight, when I'd almost stopped flinching at every sound in my apartment, my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. One last message. Hours later, like punctuation, "Bitch." He offered to walk me to my car every time I stayed late. He always made it sound like a favor. He always did it like a job. Quarter end hit, and the office turned into a fluorescent cave. People left in waves, lights dimmed, The cleaner started vacuuming around the last few of us like we were obstacles. Every time I shut my laptop after hours, he showed up. Same timing. Keys already in his hand. Badge straight. Smile on. I'll walk you down. If I said I was fine, he'd say it again, slower, like I hadn't understood the safety lesson. He was HR, not my boss, but he sat close to the bosses, and people treated him like a problem you didn't want. The first week I let him do it because I was exhausted and because refusing a safety offer from HR in an empty building feels like asking to be labeled difficult. Elevator, lobby, that cold blast when the doors open, then the parking lot with those orange lamps that buzz like insects. He didn't walk beside me. He stayed half a step behind, close enough that I felt his breath if the wind shifted. He asked questions with padding, like they were casual, like he was just making conversation. Where do you park? Which entrance you use? Do you go straight home? You still doing that gym near the highway? I never told him about my gym, not once. I laughed like it was nothing and said he must have heard someone else. He didn't laugh back. He just nodded like he was updating something in his head. After that, I started noticing how often he probably knew things. I'd change my lunch spot and he'd mention the restaurant. I'd switch my parking spot because the lot filled up, and the next night he said, different spot today, like he'd been watching for the car. I tested it once, just to make myself feel less crazy. I told a coworker, loudly, that I was going to spin class on Tuesdays. I don't even own a bike. The next day he said, how was spin? Like it was the most normal thing in the world. My stomach did that slow roll, and I told myself it was coincidence because the alternative was admitting I was being tracked in my own workplace. He had this way of getting close without it looking like he was getting close. He'd stand in doorways, so you had to brush past. He'd hover at the copy machine and ask you to hold on while he finished, even if his copies were just one page. Once in the elevator, he reached across me to hit a button and his knuckles dragged along my sleeve. Not an accident. Not enough to complain about without sounding dramatic. Just enough to remind me he could touch me and call it incidental. I started taking the stairs. It got worse because he played it like a duty. If I tried to leave with the group, he'd peel off and follow me anyway, like my car was his assignment. If I left earlier, he'd show up at my desk before 5 with a fake casual. You heading out soon? One night, I said sharp, I can walk to my own car. He didn't apologize. He just smiled and said, sure, but I'd feel bad if something happened. Like my safety was a debt he could collect. The night I doubled back, my phone was at 12% and my charger was still plugged into the wall by my desk. I'd already driven out of the lot, and I almost kept going because I could feel him in the building in my imagination like a bad smell. I said fuck in the car and turned around anyway because I was tired of letting fear pick my route. The lobby doors were locked after hours, so when my badge clicked the door open, it sounded too loud, like a gun cocking. Inside was mostly dark. The motion lights stayed asleep. The only bright thing was the copier light blinking in the corner, steady as a pulse. I walked fast, trying to make it simple. Grab the charger, leave. My footsteps hit the tile too hard, and the sound kept bouncing back at me. Halfway down the HR corridor, I heard a drawer slide shut in the HR room. Clean sound, not a creak, not pipes. A drawer, closing like someone knew exactly how hard to push. I stopped with my badge still in my hand. My mouth went dry. I didn't announce myself. I stepped quiet and peeked through the cracked door. He stood over a desk with a stack of folders spread out like he was dealing cards. Note résumé, not onboarding packets. Personal shit, screenshots, addresses, notes about schedules, printed maps with circles on them. Some pages had blurry photos stapled on, taken from angles that made my skin crawl. On the chair beside him sat a tote bag bulging with more paper. He looked calm, focused, like he was doing payroll. Then I saw the page on top with my name written at the top in thick pen, like a title. Under it, gym days, parking spot, usually alone. Little check marks sat beside some items like he'd confirmed them. My plate number was there. The make of my car. A note that said charger cord, desk. My lungs forgot what they were supposed to do for a second. I felt my stomach drop so hard it turned into rage. I pushed the door open and stepped in, loud now, because my body picked fight before my brain picked plan. I grabbed the top page. My hand shook so hard the paper crackled. I wanted it in my hand like it could keep me from being talked out of what I was seeing. He lunged for it fast and slapped it out of my hand like I'd touched his food. The page skated across the floor. He stepped on it without even looking down. He didn't apologize. He didn't even pretend. His face went flat and annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. He moved between me and the door, casual, blocking, shoulders relaxed like this was normal. He said, "Hey," not soft, not kind, more like a warning, and then he started talking about confidential materials like that was supposed to hypnotize me. I told him to move. I told him I was leaving. I reached for my phone, and he watched my thumb hover like he was timing it. I shoved past him, hard, shoulder into his chest. He caught my wrist and squeezed until my fingers tingled. It wasn't a grab, it was a clamp, thumb digging into that tendon spot like he'd learned how to hurt clean. My hand went stupid and my phone almost dropped. I swung my elbow back and clipped his jaw. Dull crack. He stumbled, swore, and I tore free. I ran straight to the break room because it has a lock. I slammed the door, turned the deadbolt, shoved a chair under the handle. My hand shook so bad I kept missing the screen. I called security and talked too fast, tripping over words. I said there was a man in HR with files on me. I said he grabbed me. I said, "Get here now." While it rang, I recorded my hand shaking because I wanted proof I wasn't imagining it. I wanted proof I wasn't calm. I could hear my own breathing like I was sprinting, and I hated how helpless it sounded. Footsteps came down the hall. Not running, just walking. He tried the handle once, like a test. The chair rattled. Then silence. I stood there with my back against the counter, staring at the door, listening for the next try, realizing I didn't have anything in that room that would actually stop a grown man if he decided to. Security came fast, which is the only reason I don't spiral all the way when I think about it. 2 guards, radios crackling, flashlights cutting the hallway into slices. I unlocked the break room, and my knees almost gave out from the switch between trapped and seen. They asked if I was hurt, and I held up my wrist, already red, and watched one of them go from bored to pissed in half a second. They walked me to HR. He was in there like he'd reset the scene, papers stacked, light off, posture neat. He put on the sweet voice again and called it a miscommunication, said I'd misread what I saw, like my name on a list was a smudge. He kept glancing at the guards, not me, measuring which story would stick. I talked over him, pointing at the table, saying my name, my schedule, the grab, the block. My voice shook, but it didn't break. One guard didn't debate. He opened his desk drawer. Inside was a burner phone, a thumb drive labeled with initials, and a notebook full of the same tidy handwriting. Page after page of names and times, and little check marks, like a sick little planner. His face twitched, just once, irritation cutting through the mask. Then he tried to smile again like he could still charm his way out of it. It didn't land. They walked him out. Not cuffs, not dramatic because real life is annoying like that. But they walked him out of the building and kept themselves between him and me the whole way. He kept his shoulders straight like he was the one being wronged. He glanced back at me like he was storing my face again, like he hadn't already stored everything else. The days after were a blur of meetings where everyone used careful words. Incident. Concern. We take this seriously. My manager kept rubbing his forehead like he could erase the week. A corporate HR woman asked me, with a straight face, if I had any prior conflict with him. Like maybe I'd had an attitude, and he responded by printing my life. I snapped at her so hard my throat burned. I showed them the video of my hands shaking and watched her stop taking notes for the first time. Because you can't HR speak your way around fear you can see. People whispered. A guy in accounting actually said he always seemed helpful, and I wanted to throw a stapler. Someone else muttered, "Well, you did hit him," like my elbow was the offense and his files were office supplies. I went home every night checking my mirrors, checking my back seat, checking the lock twice, then 3 times because once you learn someone can build a file on you inside your own workplace, Every door feels like paper. The next week, my car had a note under the wiper. "You like ruining lives?" Not a threat, a complaint, like I'd taken away his hobby. My living room TV turned on by itself at 1:06 a.m., and the volume hit zero like someone didn't want sound. I sat up in bed and listened for footsteps. I wasn't even fully awake yet, just staring at the dark doorway while the TV glow kept stuttering across the hall wall like a signal. My brain tried to make it normal, timer, glitch, remote wedge somewhere. Then I heard a whisper, not in my head, in my apartment. Low, steady, not drunk sloshed, not a TV actor, a real man keeping his voice down. I could hear little pauses, like he was listening for a response on the other end. I grabbed my phone and crept to the hall. The light from the TV flickered across the floor. A man sat on my couch with his back to me, elbows on knees, phone in hand, talking low like he was on a call. Shoes on, hood down. He sat forward like he was waiting for someone to pick him up. He wasn't rummaging. He wasn't drunk. He looked settled, like he'd been there a while. I froze and tried to decide what kind of fear this was. If he wanted my stuff, he'd already be moving. If he wanted to hurt me, why sit and whisper first? I couldn't hear the words, only that soft, controlled rhythm. I took one step back, then another. My heel barely touched the floor because I didn't trust the building to stay quiet. He shifted on the couch, the cushion creaked, and my stomach flipped because it sounded like he was getting comfortable, like he belonged. I almost went for the kitchen knife out of reflex, then realized I'd have to walk past him to get it, and I wasn't doing that. I backed into my bedroom and locked the door, then realized how stupid that was because bedroom doors don't stop anyone. I shoved my dresser against it anyway. The leg snagged the carpet and the wood scraped. The whispering paused for a beat. I held my breath, so hard it hurt. Then the whisper started again, like he'd heard the scrape and decided it didn't matter. I called 911 with my mouth right against the phone so the whisper wouldn't carry. The dispatcher started doing her script, and I got sharp with her. I didn't want calm questions, I wanted boots in my hallway. She asked if I was sure someone was inside. That word, sure, lit me up. I hissed that I could see him, that he was on my couch, that the TV was on mute for a reason. She asked for my address, apartment number, and if I could see any weapons. I whispered the address and had to repeat it because my voice kept cracking. She told me to stay in a locked room, and I told her I was trying like I needed instructions on surviving my own apartment. While I waited, I opened my camera app and hit record. I slid it under the door gap and aimed it toward the living room. My hand shook so bad the phone scraped the floor, and I winced like the sound was a gunshot. I pressed my cheek to the carpet and watched the tiny screen like it was a security monitor. The video caught him standing up and walking toward my bedroom, slow, like he knew exactly where I'd be. He didn't check the bathroom. He didn't wander. He walked straight down the hall, the way you walk to your own fridge in the dark. He stopped outside my door and tilted his head, listening. Then he spoke into his phone again, quiet and pleased, like he was reporting progress. The doorknob turned once, twice. He didn't ram it. He tested it like patience was part of the game. The dresser thumped the door each time he tried, soft and controlled. He didn't swear. He didn't grunt. He just kept that steady pressure like he had all night. I shoved my shoulder into the dresser until my arm burned. The dispatcher asked if I had a weapon, and I almost laughed. I had a lamp, a charger cord, and rage. She told me to stay low and stay quiet, and I could hear her typing while my whole body vibrated. Then the knob stopped. Silence poured into my room. My brain immediately filled it with horrible shit. Him stepping back to kick, him pulling out a tool, him just standing there smiling. I listened for breathing through the wood. I listened for fabric brushing the door. I listened for the click of metal. Nothing. Then footsteps moved away, not rushed, just decisive. Sirens finally rose outside. Not close yet, but real enough to make the windows buzz. He moved fast for the first time. On the phone screen, I saw him turn from my door and go straight to the kitchen. He didn't bolt out the front. He walked to my kitchen, opened the window, and climbed out like he'd rehearsed the route. That window latch never lines up right. I fought it with both hands when it sticks. He popped it open like it was nothing, bent the screen outward, swung one leg through, then the other, and vanished. I stayed on the floor with my phone still recording because I didn't trust anything. I kept whispering updates to the dispatcher, and I could hear my own voice going thin, like I was fading. All I could think about was how easy it was for him to choose my place. The front door to the building didn't latch half the time. I'd emailed about it. I'd argued with my landlord in the lobby once, right by the busted keypad, and he'd shrugged and said everyone was so paranoid these days. I pictured that shrug and wanted to punch a wall because that shrug lived in my throat while a stranger stood in my apartment like it was his. When someone finally pounded on my front door, I flinched so hard my knees scraped the carpet. I didn't open it right away. I made them identify themselves, and I didn't care if I sounded crazy. One of them got annoyed, and I heard it in his tone. Good, let it be annoyed. I moved the dresser, unlocked the door, and cracked it. 2 officers stood there, flashlights up, eyes scanning past me like I was hiding something. I dumped the story out too fast and kept tripping over details. The older one kept interrupting with questions, trying to make it neat. That pissed me off so much I started shaking again. I showed them the video. The younger cop watched the clip and his face changed, just a small shift from doubt to oh fuck. The older one still wanted a clean motive. He asked what was missing. I told him nothing. My wallet sat on the counter. My laptop sat on the table. My keys were still on the hook. They cleared my place anyway. One turned off the TV and the room went dead quiet, and that quiet felt worse than the flicker. They checked the kitchen window, looked down into the alley, and came back with that casual head shake that basically means he's gone and we're not chasing. They asked who had access: maintenance, landlord, old tenants. I started listing every time someone I didn't recognize had slipped in behind me at the front door, every time the entry door had sat cracked in winter because it wouldn't latch, every time I told myself to stop being dramatic. They took my statement, gave me a case number like a receipt, and left. After they left, I stood in the hallway with my deadbolt in my hand like I could will it stronger. A neighbor cracked his door and asked what the hell was going on, and I snapped at him to lock up. He rolled his eyes and shut it like I was the problem making noise. The younger cop told me to change my locks like that was simple in a rental. The older one told me to call the landlord in the morning. Morning didn't feel real. I sat on my bed until the sun came up and kept replaying the video, watching him tilt his head at my door, listening like he enjoyed it. I checked every window latch twice. I shoved a chair under the front knob. I laid my phone on the pillow with 911 still in my recent calls like it was a charm. I didn't sleep. In the morning, I called my landlord and he acted irritated, like I'd woken him up over a minor leak. He asked if anything was stolen. I said no. He said then maybe it was someone in the wrong unit, like that made it okay. I lost it. I told him his door didn't latch, his keypad was dead, and some man climbed out of my kitchen window like he'd practiced. He told me I should buy my own security bar. I called him a cheap piece of shit and hung up. Later, he sent a bland text about looking into it, the same line he'd used for months, and I realized he was going to treat this like a squeaky hinge. I stayed there 2 more weeks because moving takes money and time, and I hated every second of it. I kept hearing phantom whispers in the bathroom fan and the fridge motor. I kept waking up at 1:06 without meaning to, like my body set an alarm to punish me. I stopped using the couch. I stopped sitting in my own living room with my back to the hall. I started checking the cushion like it was evidence, like I could catch the imprint of him returning. I bought a cheap door bar and a window alarm, and every click sounded like a joke. When the cops cleared my place, nothing was missing. My wallet sat untouched. My laptop sat right there. The only thing that changed was my couch cushion, flattened on one side, warm like it had absorbed him. That's what stuck with me. He didn't come to take. He came to sit in my home and feel what it was like to own it for a minute.